With numerous mediums vying for your attention, effort, money, and time, it's rather evident that becoming distracted in this day and age is no arduous feat. For example, most of us likely carry around a small gadget in our pocket everywhere we go, a smartphone. While it's extremely useful for productive means, like business and personal communication, it can also be a major detriment. The majority of us carry it on our person and use it frequently, but for some people they never seem to put their phone down, perhaps only when they eat or sleep. When I'm driving through the city, traveling on transit, sitting at work, or attending personal events, not a day passes by where I don't witness someone intensely transfixed by their smartphone, tablet, or other electronic device. Nevertheless, I must admit that I use my smartphone regularly as well, and I ostensibly cannot go half a day without checking my notifications. So, I'm no different in some respects, but what this inevitably demonstrates is that smartphones, and other advanced technologies that have been developed to make our lives easier, can be immensely addicting. Fascinating hardware aside, the software and advanced applications that constitute an integral part of this technology are no less addicting. While using these devices for work has become a critical dimension of today's industry, a pertinent question must be asked. How much work are you actually doing on these devices? Furthermore, are you working, or are you just scrolling away on social media to kill some time, to distract yourself from more important endeavors, and to simply forget about the distressing aspects of existence in general? Today's discussion explores the necessity of reclaiming your time in a distraction-filled world. I'll commence with how easy it can be to let time fade away, and then I'll conclude with practical methods learned through personal experience to help you reclaim your time. Ultimately, despite significant technological advancements, time remains unchanged. We possess a finite amount of time, and eventually all of the days, weeks, months, and years we're allocated will vanish just like that. Effectively managing finite time has always been a vital objective, but its magnitude is certainly increased in today's world marred by an immense reliance on advanced technology. To begin, I'll demonstrate the necessity to reclaim your time with a basic equation. Let's say that you spend an average of 5 hours per day on your smartphone or other device, doing something unproductive like mindlessly scrolling on social media. 5 hours a day times 365 days in the year equals 1,825 hours. Divide this number by 24 hours and you get just a little over 76 days. Wow, spending 5 hours a day on your smartphone for a year translates into roughly 76 full days of wasted time. Imagine what else you could have done with that time instead of watching ridiculous TikTok videos or arguing with strangers in the comments section over trivial issues that won't matter when everything is said and done. There are other calculations and examples you can utilize, but I'm sure you get the picture. The point is that time passes by at an incredibly fast rate, faster than we realize. An old adage I always think about regarding this topic says, "The days are long, but the years are short." Indeed, I've realized this for quite some time now, but it becomes more tangible as I grow older and commence new life chapters. Speaking of which, I started working full-time not too long ago, and I cannot help but realize this truth yet again. While I'm earning more income and the routine is less volatile compared to when I was only working part-time, I certainly miss the additional spare time that I previously possessed. This new schedule has compelled me to be more aware of how I allocate my restricted time, more so than before. I find that I'm having to make increased trade-offs between activities, and that I have to make them more frequently and decisively. When I arrive home from work these days, I'm naturally tired and I spend some time relaxing before I engage in productive endeavors. However, if I'm not cognizant of my fatigue, then I'll waste a few hours resting on the couch watching TV or doing nothing constructive. Once again, this example demonstrates how easily time can pass by and we usually aren't aware of it until it's too late. Part of the explanation for this phenomenon might be arrogance, ignorance, or both. I'm still young, but I'm not as young as I used to be. I've become wiser, or at least my flawed perception believes that I have. I have more knowledge of where I went wrong in the past and how I can avoid making the same mistakes going forward, and I suppose that's sufficient to constitute wisdom in the short term. Anyhow, back to my original thought. Part of what constitutes the phenomenon of letting time pass us by so easily likely pertains to the ignorance and arrogance that comes with youth. When I was still a teenager, I had more of a proclivity for wasting time because of the inherently flawed belief that it would ostensibly never run out. I played video games more often and I was lazier because I thought to myself, You still have plenty of time left, theoretically, so you can afford to waste time at the moment. This ignorance and arrogance, that we're invincible and will remain invincible forever, is certainly a foolish belief. However, it's not surprising why this occurs. When we're young, we think that we have all the time in the world and our health will persist in its youthful state forever. The reality check occurs when time passes and youth inevitably fades, when you start experiencing acute and chronic pains, when your energy is less robust than it used to be, and when you don't have as much time to lollygag. Eventually you have to act, make decisions, and chart the course of your life because necessity compels you to do so. You won't be supported by your parents, or anyone else for that matter, forever. At some juncture, you have to leave the nest so you can earn a living to support yourself, and a family if you have one. For myself, while I'm still young and approaching my mid-20s, I also comprehend that eventually I won't be 20-something anymore. I won't remain forever 21, like the clothing brand of the same name which displays these words so prominently in shopping malls. Ironically, even the Forever 21 brand won't be eternal, as old buildings that were once brand new are eventually torn down, and companies that were once markedly successful fall into bankruptcy. Nothing lasts forever, and that's true for every material person and thing in this life. Therefore, understanding this realization, you inevitably have two choices. Remain blissfully ignorant and let time pass you by until none remains, or you can reclaim the reins and take proactive control of how you allocate your finite time. The latter is naturally a more beneficial choice, but how can this be executed in practice? Before you can think of practical methods, you must be aware of when you're wasting time and not just retrospectively once the time has been spent. You must be cognizant of when you're prone to misuse your time so you can catch yourself in the act, so to speak. I aforementioned that I usually relax on the couch after work these days and how I can easily remain there for hours if I'm not paying attention. To prevent this phenomenon from occurring, I ask myself not only what time is it, but what else is there that I actually want to do and should be doing. When I ask and answer these questions, I'm inspired to go and perform more constructive endeavors. The first step is being aware of when you're prone to waste time. The next step is implementing tangible methods to minimize these occurrences. Fatigue is a significant facet for wasting time. Therefore, you should minimize your fatigue. Take a brief nap during the day when you have a break and spend less time on your phone before you fall asleep. Text messages and calls that aren't urgent can be delayed until the next day. If you can't nap during your lunch break, then go for a walk instead of sitting down and scrolling on your phone. Say you want to combine two tasks at once, then find a practical way to do so without diminishing the value of either task, like listening to an audiobook as you walk, instead of music. Meanwhile, drinking coffee can help with some fatigue, but it doesn't solve everything. Hence, why exercise is fundamental to not only revitalize your energy reserves, but also to facilitate a better sleep at night. Exercise wherever you can, prioritizing both resistance training and cardio. You don't have to log 3 hours in the gym every day, but sticking to a consistent schedule you can manage is better than nothing. Some other practical methods to eliminate unproductive usage or wasting of your time unsurprisingly involve technology. Limit your smartphone use by setting screen time reminders for each of the apps you use. While they might not work initially, at least they'll help you be aware of how much time you're unnecessarily allocating. You don't have to delete social media, but I found that keeping social media apps off of my smartphone minimizes the distractions. There's far less of an urge to mindlessly scroll when there's nothing to scroll in the first place. Essentially, only keep apps on your phone that you'll likely use. Everything else will just be a distraction when you eventually get bored. Start carrying a book with you to read when you're waiting around and have time to kill, or a journal to help gather your thoughts. If you carry around your laptop, then you should do research for information that you'll need at some point. Maybe it's for a big purchase you'll make, or something much smaller. Either way, it's more productive than gaming or going on social media. Finally, you might object and remark, "I'm not going to be productive all the time. I don't have the energy and focus to remain productive at every moment during the day." Indeed, nobody does. Even the best of us have to relax and take breaks from working. However, there's a difference between relaxing and being lazy. There's a difference between resting, so you can engage in productive activities again, and simply wasting time because you have nothing better to do. Rest and relaxation are just as vital as productive work itself, but there has to be moderation, otherwise your rest will turn into procrastination. Too much of an ostensibly good activity will become a detriment. Ultimately, what it comes down to is how you allocate your time and how much you're willing to waste. It's inevitable that we won't use all of our time wisely, and sometimes it'll be wasted through no fault of our own. But being cognizant of where you can minimize this from occurring is truly the best decision you can make, especially compared to the other option of resigning yourself and letting your finite time expire without a fight. To conclude, the importance of reclaiming your time in this distraction-filled world cannot be understated. You must ask yourself when you're engaging in any activity whether this is actually what you desire to do. Now, there are some endeavors where the answer will unequivocally be no, but they must be done anyway. Work is the most obvious example because we must work to earn a living, to support ourselves and our families. Knowing this, we must maximize our free time, which are the moments when we can more or less choose what we wish to do. Don't let your free time go to waste. Be aware of what you're doing and whether you want to engage in the activities that occupy this time. The days are long and the years are short. So, reclaim your time by making these long days and short years count before they eventually come to an end.